Hi guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome to the first episode of 1 Week 1 Prep. 1 Week 1 Prep is a series of episodes where we're going to be targeting emergency preparedness 1 week at a time. I'm pretty sure guys you're aware that as a humans we cannot live without air for 3 minutes, without water for 3 days and without food for 3 weeks. And yet at the same time people do take the water preparedness for granted. If you just have a look for the past year, there's been so many issues with water. So question is to you guys, if you suddenly wake up in the morning and there's no water coming out from your tap, what will you do? Are you prepared to be able to live without water for maybe 3 days or maybe a week or maybe even more? Again, recently we had the contaminated water, we had the burst water pipes. So basically across the country there's been a lot of people that have been without water or without clean water for a good few weeks. So this is why the water preparedness is very, very important, and this is why this is going to be our week number 1. I'm going to try to make it very concise and to the point, but at the same time of course we do need to cover a few of the things, especially if you're new to preparedness altogether. So first of all, it is important to know that we need to know how to harvest water, purify our water, and of course storing water. But I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible for you guys to understand. So it does goes without saying, harvesting water, goes for extreme scenarios. Okay, this is if we're talking about preparing for a very much prolonged time without water or without clean water. So the obvious things will be just harvesting the water, so be able to have some sort of either IBC tank or water butt, or a very basic concoction of having a top and then a clean bucket underneath, so you can basically then catch the water. And then of course guys, we're talking about the cleaning the water that you get. The obvious thing would be, if you're harvesting say a rainwater, is to boil this, okay? But at the same time I understand that if potentially there's no rain for a long period of time and you potentially have a river or stream somewhere, then you might resort of actually harvesting water from there. So this is the point where you need to think about filtering your water and then purifying your water. So basically with the filtering, you're just removing the debris, sand, and some other visible particles. Yet with the purification, guys, we're talking about a totally different level. We're taking out more of the organic matter and potentially any other contaminants. Of course, that all depends on the quality of the filter you're going to be using. So generally, guys, we'll need between 2 to 4 liters per person per day. And this just goes for our drinking water, for our cooking water, and for a very basic hygiene. That doesn't include the water you'll need to flush toilets if there's a problem, or for your pets or for your plants at home. So the first step is to actually work out how much water you will need for your family. So anyway, in front of me guys here, I've got a few of the options. So we're going to be talking about the water filtration. And again, I'm going to try to keep this as simple as possible. There are so many products on the market, but we're guys talking about a very, very basic preparedness, because generally I'm pretty sure the majority of the people, when we are preparing for something, we're not preparing for the end of the world. We're not preparing for being without water for a year or two. We're just generally preparing for things that could affect our water supply. But of course, we're talking about maybe a few weeks to a few months. So first thing I do suggest, this is whether you guys beginner prepper or not, is to invest yourself into a filtration system. As I said, this is the gravity water filter. This has been made by ourselves. Yes, there is a lot of them on the market, but you're looking approximately from £100 to like £400, if not more. And the filters are very, very expensive. This little filter costed us about £60. I've done a video on this about a couple of years ago. It's basically 2 20-litre buckets, and I have 2 charcoal candle filters. The thing is with that, because you are making this yourself, you can then actually invest into slightly more expensive filters. You know, they do specific branded ones. You can either have the charcoal ones or the ceramic ones. Of course, the choice is up to you. But the point is, you don't have to pay for a brand name. That works really well. And on the positive thing as well, you can have this disassembled at home, and if needed, guys, you can assemble this. Yes, it's not the pretty looking, but it does the job. So then, of course, there are extreme things like the reverse osmosis filters, and you might hear a lot about them. I've got the ideal one in front of me. I have done a review on that. Again, I'll put the link down in the description below. They're very much the extreme scenario. So that machine here with the filters in situ can filter approximately 5,000 liters. So again, it is acceptable for an emergency, but again, it all depends how long guys we're without the water. But option is good because that pretty much purifies water to 0.04 of the parts per million, which is absolutely brilliant. And then again, you will see a lot of people talking about things like a life straw. This is the portable water filter. So basically, you find yourself a stream or puddle, whatever it is that you have, you open this up, you put that in the water, and then you basically drink from that. And yes, they're good for a very much an emergency if you're out and about camping, or if you're doing hiking, if you do go by yourself, especially for a prolonged period of times in nature. They are good things to have. But when we're talking about the general preparedness and being at home, those things, not say pretty much useless, but they are very difficult to use. And from the point is, you do have to kind of draw on this or suck on it pretty hard to be able to get the water through. And the fact is, it's not just about drinking water. You want to be able to get the water, filter this, purify this, and then boil your pasta, cook your meal, that sort of thing. So whether those things are great, if you are just new to preparedness, it is not something you should be concentrating the first of. And then, of course, the common thing, guys, we're talking about the water purification tablets. They do come in different sizes, different colors, because they purify different amount of water per tablet. So the ones in front of me, the Oasis one, each tablet does 20 to 25 liters. So the point is, you will take your water, depending, of course, of the source. You put the tablet in there, leave it there for half an hour, dissolve this, and then basically it's ready because it kills all the bacteria, or the majority. Again, very important to know that you would have to filter your water first, especially if it comes from a slightly dirty source. I wouldn't just rely on those tablets alone. And even though afterwards, just to make sure, especially if you have a young family, I would still suggest boiling your water thereafter, just to make sure. With anything, they say boiling the water for at least a minute does kill majority, but of course, guys, the filtration is very, very important. So we're coming back to the very, very basics of preparedness. So if you are just literally starting prepping, the first thing I suggest to you guys is to pick up some bottled water. As I said before, there is many people trying to complicate things, and we're not all preparing for the end of the world. So getting yourself some basic bottled water is a very, very good start. At the same time, okay, if you're totally new and you don't have potentially a lot of funds, you can reuse yourself some containers for the water. So if you do, say, buy bottled water in the big bottles, if you buy yourself, say, other fizzy drink in the big bottles, you can reuse those containers. Make sure you rinse them out properly, refill them with the water from the tap, put on the top there saying, so it's a tap water, so you're aware, put the date on it, and happy days. Do not use anything from chemicals, containers from chemicals or milk, because they will harbor bacteria, unless, okay, you're going to be using them to store behind your toilet or by the toilet for that emergency only. As I said to you before, I have, or trying to have, bottles of water in every room, behind doors if possible, and in every bathroom by the toilet. I do have a containers of water, purely just to flush the toilet. Because there are times, guys, if there's no water, there's no water. And unfortunately, you still got to do what you have to do. And if you don't have the water butt outside or ability to collect the water, it's just very easy just to rinse off your milk carton, or say the one from your washing laundry detergent, and put some water in there. Not for drinking, but just to be able to have this there by the toilet just in case you need it. This is a very basic and very inexpensive steps to get your water preparedness ready. Again, the myth about the water, people say you should not store the water in the bottles, in the plastic bottles, or shouldn't buy them in the plastic bottles because of the microplastics and things like that. Well, again, in the end of the day, and I always stand by my points, when you wake up in the morning and there's no water, or if there's a massive issue with the water supply altogether, the microplastics in your plastic bottled water will be the least of your worries. And again, people also think that storing the water in the plastic bottles, it's not a good idea and the water doesn't last. Generally, if you buy the water, it does have already a couple of years date on it. But if you store this in a cool, dark place, away from direct sunlight, your water will be absolutely fine for many, many years. It is still suggestible that you rotate your water. I normally put the date on the big packets, and then we use a lot of the water and just rotate it as you go along. So there we are, guys. This is a very basics of water preparedness. As I said, there is so much more to it. I can go into huge details, but it is absolutely pointless, because the point is we are doing the challenge or the course. The idea is to get you going into the prepping journey. So as I have promised you, right, on my website, there is going to be a printables for each episode that I do to basically give you either some information or some things you should be doing. So, and as I said, I'll be dividing this into 2 parts. So for the beginners, so if you are totally the new prepper, so on your list is aim for 2 to 4 liters per person per day, and at least start with your 3-day supply. So you'll be needing 9 to 12 liters per person for that time. So this should be your bare minimum. Because if you think, again, for the past scenarios where things happened with water, people have been on the boil water order for weeks, like 2 to 3 weeks. And generally, if there is no water, burst pipe again, it certainly could take longer than 3 days, but it is a very, very good point. Also, don't forget your pets, okay? Approximately, dogs consume 1 liter of water per day. Cats consume approximately half a liter. Mine do a little bit less, but they do consume mainly wet food. But this is something for you to consider when you're stockpiling your water. So just to sum it up, guys, for you who are just starting out, get yourself 9 to 12 liters of water for 3 days. This is your point. This is your challenge for this week. Get some water. Put the date on it, maybe set the reminder on your phone to rotate this every 6 to 12 months, depending if you're planning to take your emergency preparedness further. But otherwise, this is your step number 1. So now, guys, for you who are a little bit more ahead of a prepping game, why not see if you can top up your water preps by approximately 20 liters? I think that's kind of a good figure. Of course, it depends on where you are at with your preparedness, but as well, plan for this week. Don't forget to test your water filters. That depends, guys, if you do use filters like that or if you use candle filters, just check, make sure everything's working. Purification tablets, do make sure that you check the date if you haven't. This is something I know I forget to do, especially for the tablets that are stored in different places. Next thing, identify your alternative water sources. Just trying to think outside the box a little bit. I probably understand that a lot of you already know if you do have a water butts, if you collect rainwater, or if you have a stream, anything else, but think outside the box of where else potentially you can get water if those are inaccessible. So the last thing is as well, do you know how much water you actually have? People generally say, well, I have 50 liters or I have 100 liters, but generally people don't actually know the defined answer. And in a lot of cases, people don't know how much water they have in specific locations, especially if you do store it in the different places. And of course, this is totally suggestible. So again, if you log on to my website and go under the 1 week 1 prep, you'll find yourself a printable, which will give you some information. And again, somewhere you can jot down your locations and the date of water. This way, you'll just have a better control of your water resources. So my plan was this week as well to top up my waters like I do, guys, like I said to you, by approximately 20 liters. This was my plan until the other day the doorbell rang and I had a delivery from Amazon of 60 liters of water, because stupidly enough, a couple months back I've seen some water on a deal, which was that and it was free delivery. So basically 12 bottles of 500 ml, so 6 liters of water. It was £2.20, I believe, with a free delivery. And of course, if you do subscribe and save, depending on what you have, you get an extra like 10-15% on the top of that. So silly, I've put this in my subscribe and save, but I've cancelled this for the past 2 months. And then this time I actually forgotten. So for my preparedness this week, that came last week, I've gained myself 60 liters of water from Amazon. But it turned out to be not that bad, because I ended up paying £1.70 for a 12 bottle, so £1.70 for a 6 liters, which is not that bad. I know you can buy the big 5-liter bottles from the Home Bargains for 99p. So again, if you are on a budget and this is what, something you're considering doing in the bottled water, you don't have bottles already, go and have a look. They are between 99p and £1.29, depending where you buy them from, but it's still a very, very good value. And also one little point I forgot to add, if you are seriously sort of preparing for prolonged period of time without water, or potentially other scenarios where the quality of water will be very much sabotaged or not as pure as we like, I consider investing in the TDS meter, which is basically measures your parts per million in terms of the water contamination. Those things are really, really good. You just dunk them in there and it gives you basically the pollution of the water. Generally, the purified water, the 100% pure distilled water, is pretty much 0.00. The reverse osmosis, as I said, do make them into 0.4 or thereabouts, which is very, very good. And believe this or not, that the rainwater actually, majority of the time, is also very close to a purely distilled water, which is kind of good, but it's still very handy to have one of those. So there we are, guys. I hopefully have found this video helpful. As I said, I'm trying to keep it really concise, really to the point, and then giving you your points of action for this week. So if you guys have enjoyed this episode, don't forget, please put thumbs up. Check out the website, subscribe so you don't miss the episode number 2 or the week number 2. Otherwise, guys, thank you for watching, and I shall see you soon. Bye-bye.